You know this story your whole life. A giant wooden horse. A brilliant trick. The perfect ending to the Trojan War. It's taught in schools, shown in movies, referenced in video games, books, even computer viruses. But here's the uncomfortable truth. There is zero solid archaeological evidence that the Trojan horse ever existed. Not a fragment, not a carving, not a single trace. And what's worse, the most famous version of this story may not even come from the Greeks themselves. When archaeologists uncovered the real ruins of Troy, a real city in modern-day Turkey, they found something far darker, far messier, and far more human than a clever fairy tale. So today, let's slow down, strip away the legend, and uncover how one of the most famous stories in human history may have begun as propaganda, not history. Before we go any further, stop for a second. Think about how powerful stories are. Think about how easily a story can survive for thousands of years, even if it's wrong. Most of us never question the Trojan horse. We accept it before we're old enough to doubt it. But history doesn't care about what sounds poetic. History leaves scars, burn marks, broken stones, and Troy is full of them. Dash dash. Here's something most people never realize. If you walk into a bookstore today and buy Homer's The Iliad, hoping to read the legendary story of the Trojan horse, you're going to be confused because it's not there. The Iliad ends with Hector's funeral. The war is still going on. Troy hasn't fallen. There is no horse. That alone should feel strange because the horse is supposed to be the climax of the entire war. Now, to be fair, Homer briefly mentions a horse in the Odyssey, but only as a quick memory, a passing reference, not the dramatic cinematic infiltration story we all know. That version appears much later, centuries later, and it comes from the Romans. Dash dash. The Romans claimed they were descendants of Troy. This created a serious problem, because if your ancestors were defeated in one of the most famous wars in history, you need an explanation, and we were weaker is not a very appealing one. So instead, you blame divine forces, you blame deception, you blame the gods. The Trojan horse wasn't just a story. It was ancient public relations, a way to say, we didn't lose and because we failed. We lost because the enemy cheated with divine tricks. And once that story exists, it spreads, it evolves, it becomes untouchable. Now this is where the story becomes almost unbelievable. In the 19th century, a wealthy businessman named Heinrich Schliemann became obsessed with Troy. At the time, most scholars believed Troy was nothing more than a myth, a poetic invention, a fantasy. Schliemann didn't care. He went to Hisarlik, in modern-day Turkey, convinced the city was real. And against all expectations, he was right. He found Troy. But here's the tragedy. Schliemann wasn't an archaeologist. He was impatient, obsessed. He didn't carefully brush away layers of soil. He didn't respect the timeline of history. He used dynamite, literally. In his rush to reach what he believed was the true Troy, he blasted through upper layers of civilization. Entire chapters of history were destroyed forever. When the dust settled, archaeologists saw something undeniable. A city burned, walls shattered. But once again, no horse, not a single trace. Imagine yourself as a Trojan guard. You haven't slept properly in weeks. The siege feels endless. The smell of smoke never leaves the air. It's early morning. Fog hangs low over the battlefield. Then you see it, a massive wooden structure moving toward the walls. Tall, heavy, covered in wet animal skins to protect it from fire arrows. Your heart races. To you, it doesn't look like a machine. It looks like a beast. Historians believe this may have been a siege engine, a battering ram, or a mobile siege tower. Over centuries of oral storytelling, a wooden war machine covered in horse skin slowly transformed into something else. A wooden horse. It wasn't a gift. It wasn't symbolic, it was a weapon, a tank of the ancient world. But there's another possibility, and it's even more unsettling. When archaeologists examined the walls of Troy 6, the layer dating to the time of the Trojan War, they found cracks. Not the kind caused by weapons, but the kind caused by massive structural movement. An earthquake. In modern terms, that explanation is simple, but in the ancient world, it was anything but. In Greek mythology, earthquakes were caused by Poseidon, the god of the sea, the god of horses, and, most importantly, the Earthshaker. So imagine the scene. The walls fall, the city collapses, the ground itself turns against Troy. No one says tectonic plates shifted. They say Poseidon struck the city down. The horse god destroyed the walls. A metaphor is born, and later, it's taken literally. To be clear, neither theory is perfect. Some historians still believe there was some form of deception. Others argue the earthquake alone wouldn't explain the total destruction. And that's important to say, because real history is rarely clean, rarely cinematic, rarely satisfying. It's chaotic, contradictory, human. But what we do know is this: the story we love doesn't match the evidence we have. So why does the Trojan horse survive? Because we love clever stories. We love heroes who win with intelligence instead of brutality. We love clean endings. A siege engine is ugly. An earthquake is random. A clever trick inside a wooden horse? That feels meaningful. For thousands of years, we weren't repeating history. We were repeating propaganda. So what really destroyed Troy? A war machine mistaken for a beast? An earthquake turned into divine punishment? Maybe both. But one thing is certain: the truth doesn't need to be a fairy tale to be fascinating. Sometimes reality is far more powerful than myth. Which one do you believe?